Alrighty, so I am back in terms of recording video after for the past couple of days I wasn't able to because I've been feeling under the weather. In fact, these past 3 weeks I have been feeling under the weather and I've been battling this sickness for the past 3 weeks. It's been one of the worst sickness I've been battling in years, and that you can probably tell in terms of these last couple of weeks and in terms of some of the video that my voice is definitely not at 100%, and to this day, my voice is still not at 100%. But that being said, it is enough for me to do a video and do a news of the week episode, and it is officially over. The MLS referee lockout has finally ended over the weekend, as it was announced that the MLS Referee Organization Pro has officially ratified with the new CBA, and that new CBA will now go all the way into 2030. And I think this is definitely great news for everybody, especially with how things have gone with the replacement referee, and that we have one fail Mary game that happened in Chicago versus Montreal, and almost a kind of a fail Mary game in the first half between Charlotte and Columbus, and that pretty much almost every fans from last week I have heard have talked about how bad refereeing was from each of their games, and that it was a matter of time before for the league had to do something, and that they can hear the frustration in terms of the fans have voiced in terms of these replacement referee, and now they're basically bringing the real ref backs. Now, obviously, is there still going to be some bad calls that's going to be made throughout these games? Yes, absolutely. Is there still going to be some botch VAR calls that we've seen from replacement referee that probably will make by pro as well? Probably, but I'll just say this: it's probably not going to be as much of a shit show in terms of some of these refereeing calls and some of these refereeing decision as we have seen before. And that, imagine a couple of years ago, I would say, and if everyone would say that they're so happy to see the real referee back in MLS. I mean, that would be unthinkable because of how much I ridicule in terms of pro and their job in terms of refereeing these MLS game. But it's just getting to a point where the morale is at its lowest in terms of the fans and also the referee and also each of these games because of how much these replacement referee has kind of damaged the integrity in terms of some of these games that's being put. That, yeah, it's getting to a point where I'm pretty sure everybody is very happy to see the real referee is back, and then probably in about a week or two I think they'll all forgot, and basically the "Ref You Suck" chant is going to be ranked out throughout the arena, and people will basically once again complain about some of these bad refereeing decision that is made by pro. Now, moving on in terms of next news and talk about some signings. Oh, look, Inter Miami have made a signing. So they have signed now right back Marcelo Vingern from Boca Juniors on loan. So this, of course, is the DeAndre Yedlin replacement. And before you ask, how in the world does Inter Miami has enough general allocation money to make this move done? Well, I have no idea. But one thing I know is that this, of course, is a low move, and that we'll see how this, of course, will go. And especially with the way that I don't really know too much about him. I mean, I know he came from Boca Juniors, and any time when you have a player that comes from Boca, it's definitely a great player to have. I mean, that guy called Emmanuel Reynoso coming from Boca, he turns out to be a great player for Minnesota United, didn't he? So yeah, we'll see whether or not if this, of course, will be that, and that there's some expectation too, because DeAndre Yedlin, well, he was during his latter part of his time with Inter Miami wasn't really doing so well. He's still bringing the veteran presence and still did relatively well during his time with Inter Miami, and the fact that they decided to sell him to FC Cincinnati, and that it definitely leaves a gap in terms of that he's gonna have to trying to impress, especially with the way that this is, of course, going to be only a loan move. So there's no guarantee that he's going to be still with the team by the end of this season. Now, LAFC, they have signed former NYCFC defender Maxime Chanot. So obviously, with the way that NYC or LAFC have been very be shorthanded. Well, obviously that of course was the case for NYCFC last year, but this season LAFC have been so shorthanded in their roster, especially on the defensive department. They had to do something, and bringing Maxime Chanot will definitely helps out. I think I was kind of surprised that NYCFC decided to not re-sign Maxime Chanot, considering he's been a leader to that NYCFC defense for a very long time. But LAFC took fit. And while he is definitely on the older side, he's going to provide that veteran presence. And he's a guy that is an MLS proven defender. And I don't care how a player has been around the league for long and maybe started to decline. If you're an MLS proven player and know how to do well week in and week out, like what we see Max Traynell has done doing his time with NYCFC, I think this is going to be a good signing for LAFC. Now, FC Cincinnati, they have signed midfielder Yamil Assad. So talk about an MLS proven kind of player. Yamil Assad is kind of that player, though, the last couple of years, he's been kind of bouncing around different team. I mean, he has been having a couple of tenures doing his time with DC United, and now it seems like FC Cincinnati is the latest team to look to give him a shot and see how he's going to do. So yeah, we'll see how he's going to do. He's probably going to use more as a def piece for this FC Cincinnati side. But now moving on in terms of the next news and talk about injury news because we actually had a couple of injury news this week. So Paxton Pomacco, probably one of the most cursed player in terms of injuries in this league, and a guy that has just cannot catch a break in terms of suffering setbacks after setback. Well, the latest setbacks is now he is going to be undergoing knee surgery again, and he's going to be done for the season. I mean, honestly, just this really sucks for him, and I would also say that he is probably going to go down as one of the biggest what if in terms of a player that has have a lot of potential and a player that has just kind of been destroyed because of injury. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when he was with the youth national team and everybody raved the fact that he's going to be the next great player in that number 6 role for the U.S. men's national team, and it just didn't happen. I mean, he's been dealing with so many injuries for the past couple of years, and that I know he's been trying hard to come back from every single one of them, but you just wonder with the way that he's been dealing with so much injury, how much longer does he have left in his legs before he just say that what, it's just not worth fit anymore. I mean, I know he's still relatively young, but this is a guy that has suffered just so many injuries to a point where I wouldn't even be surprised that after this knee surgery, where I think he's definitely going to make a comeback, but if he suffer another brutal injury or maybe another or two brutal long-term injury, I don't think he can continue with just the amount of injuries that he's suffered throughout his career. In fact, if he eventually does decide to retire, I have to do a career video about Paxton Pomacco and kind of almost a tragic career video talk about not only the biggest what if, but also probably one of the most injury riddle player and kind of like the MLS version of an Alexandro Pato kind of type of player. Now, speaking of injuries, Quakes goalkeeper Daniel, he's going to be out 4 to 6 months due to a hamstring surgery. And honestly, I think after just how poor that Daniel has looked in the first couple of games for the Quakes between the stakes, I just had a feeling that he probably is dealing with an injury, and this pretty much confirms it. And that while 4 to 6 months doesn't mean he's done for the season, it's pretty close though. I mean, he's probably not going to be back until like the middle of July, probably right around Leeds Cup or somewhere after their Leeds Cup and heading into the stretch run of the regular season. But yeah, I mean, you know, this is also kind of the reason why when the Quakes decided to sign a gazillion goalkeeper in the off season and people thought that that was kind of a bad idea. Well, now it doesn't seem like it's a bad idea either way because of the way that yeah, I mean, with the way that Danielle now being being injured, it sucks because he is still a great goalkeeper when he's not playing hurt, and he's a major part of why the Quakes made it to the playoffs last season. At least they have some decent backup option. I mean, they have plenty of backup option with the way that now that I think William Yarbrough will take the charge, and I think judging by the last game that William Yarbrough played, I thought he played relatively well, and the 2 goals that he gave up really wasn't his fault whatsoever. Heck, one of them was a penalty he kicked. So yeah, that. Usually when you give up a goal from the penalty, I mean, I don't think really counts too much in terms of your goal out chart. Even though, of course, in the end it will still count toward it. But still, I think William Yarbrough will be a decent backup sub option. And then, of course, I know this offseason they also signed a Polish international goalkeeper or a Polish youth international goalkeeper. And yeah, now it seems like maybe the Quakes are a little bit smart. Now, the fact that they actually decided to sign a couple of goalkeeper when at first we were really questioning of what is the Quakes doing. Decided to just keep signing in goalkeeper even though they have enough goalkeeping being depth that maybe we'll have two MLS teams that could have fit the goalkeeping depth that the Quakes of course currently have. Now, more injury news. So, according to Brian Schmetzer, there is no timeline in terms of when Joe Paulo will be back from his injury. So, Joe Paulo has been pretty much sidelined throughout the season. And yeah, this is definitely not great news for the Seattle Sounders because we know how important he is in terms of the midfield. And while I will say that even if Joao Paulo comes back to the Sounders team, it still kind of really doesn't solve the problem that they have on the attacking end. But it will definitely at least help the defense a little bit, which this season the Sounders defense has been kind of struggling in terms of how this early season has. And it's no wonder why they're right now near the bottom of the Western Conference. In fact, I think they're actually at the bottom of the Western Conference as we speak. But yeah, this is not a great news for the Sounders, and we'll just hope eventually Joao Paulo will have a speedy recovery and he will return to this team. I mean, to this day, I still don't know exactly what kind of injury that he is suffering, but it seems like it's probably a bit of a major injury. The fact that he's not even ready for the beginning of the season. Now, moving on, we got LAFC. They are report to close in signing Olivier through this summer. So I know a lot of LAFC fans were very excited a couple of days ago about how there was an announcement that a French player was going to be coming to this team, and they thought it was probably going to be Olivier Giroud, but nope. It turns out it was actually Maxime Chenot, and Maxime Chenot isn't even French. He's actually from Luxembourg. But yeah, I think that it seems like this is probably going to happen. And again, big part of that is because Hugo Lloris must have talked to Olivier Giroud and talked about all the good things that he has currently with LAFC, and that this seems like it is going to happen. And if it is going to be happen, boy, this is the shot of the arm for LAFC that needed in terms of the number 9 spot because Olivier Giroud, even though he is started to age a little bit, he's still a prolific goal scorer in front. And if he comes into the leagues, I can guarantee that he can be at least a 10 plus goal scorer and would even be better than when Gareth Bale basically came to LAFC. I think when Gareth Bale came to LAFC, I mean, you kind of saw that he was kind of near the end of his career, and especially coming off of a major injury, and he hasn't really played a lot. That's why he didn't really quite work out near the end with LAFC or doing a short time with LAFC besides that memorable goal that he scored in MLS Cup. But I think with the way that Olivier Giroud still hasn't really slowed down too much, still at the top of his game doing his time with AC Milan. I think this is going to be a good signing for LAFC eventually when they do decided to get this all over the line in the summer transfer window. Now they also are reported that Kai Kamara might be a team that could be or a player that could be joining LAFC because there's a report that he's now training with LAFC and could potentially sign with the team on a contract. And I'm kind of surprised that nobody has give Kai Kamara a chance. I mean, he clearly have shown that doing last season when he was with the Chicago Fire, he still got it. I mean, he still is a decent player. So I don't know why does nobody decided to try to give him another shot, but it seems like LAFC might be the team to do so. And if that is the case, I mean, that's another team check off the list in terms of teams that Kai Kamara have played because, you talk about the ultimate journey man in MLS. Kai Kamara is definitely that player, and I will not be surprised he decided to sign a contract with LAFC. And I also won't be surprised he's going to score a couple of goals too. I mean, if you can basically feed the ball up in the air, he's one of the most dangerous aerial threat kind of player in the league. So I think there's no doubt that if they decide to sign him, yeah, he's gonna definitely do well with LAFC, especially if you pump the ball up in the air. He is very scary uh whenever you pop the ball up in the field, and he can basically outjump any defender and heads it into the back of the net. Now, moving on into the last news in terms of transfer rumors and signings. So, Man City is close to sign NYCFC left back Christian McFarland. Now, normally I don't talk about major signing involving players like currently are probably are young players that are not making a lot of appearance and mostly making for their MLS Next Pro appearance. That, of course, is the case with Christian McFarland. But he's a guy that we have heard a lot about that be very talented. We also have heard about Kevin Sullivan, another player that is a 14-year-old coming out of the Union Academy, and now it seems like there's a lot of club in Europe is looking to try to get him because of the talent that he has. But Christian McFarland is another one of those players. Now, keep in mind he is a player that was born in England, so that's why he's allowed to join Man City because no, he's technically not a foreign player, and that anytime when you're a foreign player, you can only register with a team as long as you are over 18. But since he does have an English passport, he's allowed to join Man City, and we'll see whether or not if that this move will do. I mean, it also helped the fact that NYCFC and Man City are part of the City football group, so I can definitely see that this, of course, would happen. And if it does happen, then we'll see how he's going to do. And it's also going to be interesting to see which national team he's going to be representing because doing it is youth national team career. He's been choosing both the U.S. and England, and he's eligible in terms of both of them. Hopefully, he chooses the U.S. because he's a very talented left back and a guy that in a couple of years and maybe even well, I wouldn't say as soon as 2026, but maybe in the future he could be a guy that if he does choose the U.S., he could have that lock. He could have that first team spot in terms of that fullback position if he does eventually develop to be a decent player, as many people thought that he could be. Now, moving on in terms of the last two news that's not related to transfer rumors, injuries and signings. So I want to mention that David Goss, one of the 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 host for Extra Time Radio, and I have always loved Extra Time Radio. I've listened to Extra Time Radio pretty much for the past couple of years. Most of the information that I get in terms of news of the week and also some of the insight comes from Extra Time Radio. But it's very sad to see that it seems like one of the hosts, David Gauss, is going to be making his final appearance on Extra Time Radio today. And apparently, from what I heard, is that it's not his decision that he decided to leave Extra Time. It seems like it's come from the league itself, and that this is another example that it seems like the league is definitely cutting talent and slashing some of these talent just to cut the budget that they have in terms of paying all of these analysts that they have, but also just trying to remove some of these kind of media members that may have spoke against the league without the league consent. I mean, we have seen it before, and it seems like David Goss, from what we have also heard, that he's definitely not shy in terms of criticizing the league itself. Now, I'm not saying that is kind of the reason why it forced him to be out of this job, but yeah, it's still kind of sad that this, of course, is the case. I mean, when Andrew Weeby basically mentioned it, you can clearly see Andrew Weeby is kind of almost fighting tears in terms of mentioning that this is, of course, the final episode that is with him, and I'm pretty sure that goes the same with Matt Doyle as well, because those three guys, they're the heartbeat of Extra Time Radio. They've been in that Extra Time Radio host ever since I started listening from past couple of years, all the way going back to 2018 when I basically start doing MLS kind of news on this channel. So yeah, very sad to see that David Goss is making his final appearance. He also mentioned that he doesn't know whether or not he's going to be returning in terms of covering MLS. I hope that it is gonna be the case because again, he is definitely a guy that brings a lot of knowledge and at time are considered my favorite host in terms of that extra time radio trio that we always see with Goss, Boyle, and Andrew Weeby. Now, moving on in terms of last news, so the match between the Seattle Sounder and the Philadelphia Union. That remember a couple of weeks, it basically started 5 minutes, and then they realized that yeah, the game was completely unplayable because the pitch was completely waterlogged. Well, now it's going to be resuming on April 30th, and that I believe it's going to be resuming in the 5th minute because again, play 5 minutes, and anytime when game resumed, they'll basically start on the time. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it's gonna play. I mean, what's good about this game is that because they only play 5 minutes, pretty much this is gonna be like almost a brand new ball game for both of these teams. And keep in mind, this game is gonna be taking place on Tuesday. So in some way, I think it's a good and bad thing. I think taking players on Tuesday, it's a good thing because both of these teams does have a bit of an extra rest to have to cope with in terms of playing in midweek games in terms of a weekend game because it's play on Tuesday. Bad news is that means they're gonna have a bit of a shorter rest to prepare for this game compared to their previous weekend. So yeah, we'll see how this game is going to turn out. I mean, it was always going to be the case that this game is going to schedule in the middle of the week. I mean, most games that's basically postponed because of inclement weather always are scheduled in the middle of the week. But I'm also going to be interested to see how the attendance is going to be. It's probably not going to be great, but still, we'll see how this matchup is going to be because I said before that when this matchup was going to happen, seems like this could be a very interesting matchup at least in the early part of the season, and as the season goes along, especially with both of these teams not having the best start to the season, it could still be an interesting kind of matchup. Although in a way where it's maybe started to become a bit of a desperation derby for both of these teams to get going in the beginning of the season and live up to the potential that they should be heading into this season. And then finally, in terms of the power rankings, as I've always mentioned near the end of the news of the week episode, so at number one, still the Columbus Crew in that spot, despite losing 2-0 to Charlotte. But at number two, we have FC Cincinnati. I believe they moved up 4 spot. And then we have Minnesota moving up 1 spot despite not playing a single game. I mean, I guess when you're basically still at the top of the Western Conference despite not playing a single game, guess you deserve to be moved up one spot. And I would love to thank every Western Conference team in terms of not being able to catch Minnesota and still remains as the only team to have double-digit point in the Western Conference. But at number four, we have the LA Galaxy, of course, moving up, and the same goes for the New York Red Bulls. But we see Miami dropping down to sixth position. I mean, that's what happened when you lost 4-0 to the New York Red Bulls. But at number seven, we also have Atlanta United moving down, and at number eight, we have Montreal, who I believe also moved down, but obviously they were one of 3 teams that did not play during the international break. Then we have the Vancouver Whitecaps also moving down because of their 2-1 loss against RSL at home. And then at number 10, I believe this is the first appearance for LAFC. Well, actually, this is not the first appearance for LAFC, but it's probably the first appearance since the second week of the season. The LAFC have made their appearance in the top 10, and it's not a surprise because after that 5-0 bumping that they had against Nashville, you had a feeling that LAFC was going to make a big move, and that this is also where I said before how, yeah, this is definitely bad news for the rest of the Western Conference, that now it seems like LAFC has got things going on the attack, and not to mention now that they're starting to get reinforcement, this team can quickly find themselves self climbing up the standings, and next thing you know, can get themselves right back into the first place in the Western Conference. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of news of the week episode. As you can probably tell, my voice is definitely worn out as the video goes along. I mean, I did say that my voice is still not 100%. I mean, I would say probably about 70% is enough in terms of getting me through this video. But as always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video. And as always, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.